I always thought the hardest part of marriage would be learning to forgive small mistakes, the late nights, the forgotten anniversaries, the unspoken resentment that builds quietly between two people who stopped listening. But it turns out, the hardest part is realizing when forgiveness has already expired. My wife Laura stood in our kitchen that morning with her arms crossed, chin lifted in that defiant, rehearsed way she always had before a fight. Her words hit like a final nail. "I'm done pretending I never loved you to hurt me." I stared at her for a long moment. There was no shock left in me, no anger, just a calm that felt almost foreign. Finally, I said quietly, setting down my coffee, "Honesty." She blinked, thrown off. "That's it? No fight? No speech about how we can fix this?" I shook my head. "No, Laura. I think we're both out of speeches." She rolled her eyes, grabbed her purse, and muttered something about needing air. But as she walked out, I knew this time wasn't another dramatic pause in our endless cycle of makeup and breakdowns. This time, it was an ending one I'd already planned for. So the truth was, I'd seen this coming for months. Maybe even years. The emotional distance, the half-hearted affection, the way she spoke about me to her friends when she thought I wasn't listening at all, painted a picture of someone who'd already left the relationship in spirit long before her body followed. So I'd prepared quietly. I met with a lawyer. I restructured my accounts. I bought out her share of the house when she mentioned wanting to move somewhere fresh someday. She thought I was indulging her dream. I was simply getting ready for reality. When she came home that evening, her mood had shifted again. She acted casual, humming to herself, cooking pasta as if nothing had happened. That's how it always went. Explosions, followed by silence. Silence followed by forced normalcy. "Are we okay now?" she asked over dinner, her tone light, testing the waters. I smiled faintly. "We will be." She took that as reassurance, not realizing it was a goodbye in disguise. That night, after she fell asleep on the couch, I looked at her and felt something I hadn't in a long time: indifference. Not hate, not sorrow. Just a quiet acceptance that whatever love we'd shared had dissolved into habit, and habit wasn't enough to save anyone. The next morning, she woke to the sound of knocking, not from me, but from the courier at the door. Her confusion turned into shock as she signed for the envelope. Inside were legal documents, divorce proceedings, separation of assets, and noticed that the house was now solely in my name. When she turned to me, pale and trembling, I simply said, "I stopped pretending to." The look on Laura's face when she unfolded those papers was one. I'll never forget, a mix of confusion, disbelief, and something close to fear. Her lips parted like she wanted to speak, but no words came. For years, she'd been the one pulling the strings in our arguments, dictating when the silence ended, when forgiveness began. This time the script had changed, and she had no lines prepared. You already did this?" she finally stammered. I leaned against the counter, calm as ever. "Months ago, I wanted to make sure things were clean when you finally said what we both knew." Her voice rose, trembling between anger and panic. "So, what, you were planning this behind my back? You just decided we were done?" I met her gaze evenly. "No, Laura, you did. I just decided to stop pretending otherwise." She slammed the papers down on the table. "This isn't fair. You don't just blindside someone with divorce papers." I almost laughed. The irony was too sharp to ignore. "Fair, Laura. You've been checked out for a year. You said it yourself this morning, you're done pretending." I just made sure when that moment came, neither of us would have to drag this out. Her eyes flickered, searching for a familiar foothold in the conversation. She'd always been good at flipping guilt, twisting logic, until I ended up apologizing for things I hadn't even done. This time, there was nothing to twist. The calmness in my voice threw her off balance. "So what now?" she asked finally, quieter. "Now," I said, "you get to start the life you've been hinting at for months, and I get to start mine without the pretending." Her shoulders slumped, the fight slowly draining out of her. "Can't just walk away like it's nothing." "It's not nothing," I replied gently. "It's just not everything anymore." She stood there for a while, staring at the papers, fingers trembling as she traced her name on the page. I could almost see the realization dawn that I'd meant it, that the stability she took for granted was gone. That evening, she tried to shift the tone as if charm could rewind time. She made dinner, put on soft music, and started small talk like it was any other night. "So we can still talk through this, right?" she said, forcing a smile. "People separate all the time and work it out." I shook my head slowly. "It's true, but we didn't separate today. We ended months ago. You just didn't notice." Her eyes glistened. "You really don't love me anymore?" I took a breath. Did, deeply. Enough to stay through the lies, the distance, the silence. But you can only water a dead plant for so long before you realize it's never going to grow again. Laura looked at me then, not as her husband, but as a stranger who'd quietly stepped out of the story she thought she controlled. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee and pancakes. For a second, my body reacted like it used to. Warmth, familiarity, the illusion of home. But that faded as soon as I remembered where we stood. She'd dressed up, hair curled, a soft blue dress I used to love, and flashed me a bright, almost desperate smile when I walked in. "Morning," she said, overly cheerful. "I made your favorite. Thought we could. Talk properly." I sat down slowly, studying her. "Talk about what?" She faltered about us, about what happened. "Maybe I overreacted yesterday. We can work through this. We always have." I let her speak, not interrupting as she layered excuse after excuse, painting over years of emotional distance with quick fixes and wishful thinking. When she finally paused, I asked quietly, "Laura, why now?" Her eyes darted to mine. "What do you mean? Why are you suddenly trying, when for years you couldn't even look at me without resentment? Is it because you love me again? Or because you realized you might lose what I built?" Her jaw tightened. "That's not fair. It's honest," I said simply. For a moment, silence filled the room, thick, uncomfortable, heavy with everything we'd ignored. Then she snapped, slamming her fork onto the table. "You think you're some saint?
Oh,
You think this is all my fault?" "No," I replied evenly. "I think we both failed. But the difference is, I stopped pretending we hadn't." Her voice cracked. "You're really going through with this?" I nodded. "The papers are already filed, Laura. You just need to sign your part. I've made sure you're financially covered, the assets are split fairly, and you'll have what you need to move on." Tears welled in her eyes, not the kind born of heartbreak, but of shock. She'd never imagined a version of me that acted without begging for her approval first. "They planned this all behind my back," she whispered. "I can't believe you were capable of something so cold." "Cold?" I echoed. "No, Laura. This was mercy. Cold would have been letting you keep pretending we were fine, knowing I'd already checked out." She pushed her chair back and stood, trembling. "Can't just erase years like that." "I'm not erasing them," I said softly. "I'm just acknowledging that they're over." Her anger deflated then, replaced by quiet disbelief. She looked around the house, our photos, the furniture we picked together, the faint echoes of a life we built on borrowed time. "I don't even know who you are anymore," she said finally. I met her gaze one last time. "Right. Maybe that's because for the first time, I'm not who you needed me to be." She left the table without another word, retreating to the bedroom and slamming the door. But even that sound didn't sting anymore, because somewhere between the pretending and the peace, I'd found something stronger, the will to let go. For the next few days, the house was eerily quiet. No slammed doors, no sharp comments, no passive-aggressive remarks about me never trying hard enough. Just silence. Thick, uneasy silence. Laura moved through the rooms like a ghost. Sometimes I'd catch her standing in the living room, staring at the framed photos of us on vacation or the wedding picture that hung by the stairs. Once, I heard her crying softly in the bathroom. But by the time I knocked, she'd already composed herself, muttering something about allergies. I didn't press, not because I didn't care, but because I finally understood her emotions weren't mine to manage anymore. By midweek, she'd started reaching out in small, calculated ways. Making dinner again, asking if I wanted to watch something together, offering to help with laundry, something she hadn't done in years. It was strange, watching her try to reassemble a version of us that no longer existed. Then, one evening, she appeared at the doorway of my office holding a box. "I found these," she said quietly. Inside were old letters, notes I'd written during our first year of marriage. Back then, I used to leave her messages tucked into books or taped to the mirror, reminders of love when life got busy. "I kept them," she said softly. Even when things got bad, I looked at her, unsure what to feel. Nostalgia? Sadness? Maybe a mix of both. Those were written by someone who still believed we could fix anything, I said. I don't think either of us is that person anymore. Her eyes shimmered. I didn't mean for us to get this far apart. I just got lost. I thought you'd always be there waiting. That sentence, "I thought you'd always be there," hit harder than I expected. It summed up everything about our marriage. She'd grown comfortable thinking I'd never leave, no matter what she did, because I'd always been the one trying to hold us together. But now, she was staring at the version of me who'd finally learned how to let go. "I was there," I said quietly, even when it hurt. "But you mistook endurance for loyalty. They're not the same." She stepped closer. "So that's it? You're really done?"
Yes.
Her composure finally cracked. "You're walking away from everything we built?" I shook my head. "No, Laura, I'm walking away from what we destroyed." The words hung heavy between us, final and true. She set the box of letters on my desk and walked out without another word. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in years. No waiting for her to come home late, no dread of another fight waiting in the morning. Just silence. Peaceful, cleansing silence. But peace doesn't last long when guilt takes root. The next day, I got a call from her sister, Emily. She sounded tense. "Mark," she said, "you might want to check on Laura. She's been calling me nonstop saying she made a huge mistake. She's not taking this well." I sighed, rubbing my temple. I figured as much. "She asked me to tell you she wants to see you?" Said it's urgent. I hesitated. "Tell her I'll think about it, because deep down, I already knew this wasn't about love anymore. It was about control slipping through her fingers." 2 days passed before I finally agreed to meet her. Not because I wanted to, but because part of me needed closure, not for her, but for myself. We met at a small cafe near the courthouse. I arrived early, sat by the window, and watched as she approached, hesitating at the door like someone facing a ghost from their past. She looked different, tired, hollow-eyed, wearing the same coat I'd once said made her look unstoppable. Now it hung loosely off her shoulders, like the weight of her own choices had finally settled in. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice trembling just slightly. I nodded, offering a polite smile, said it was urgent. She sat down, fidgeting with her phone. "I know I said a lot of things before, things I didn't mean. I was angry and stupid, and I guess I wanted to hurt you before you could hurt me." I stayed silent, letting her talk. It was strange. She'd never been this honest when we were actually together. "I thought I was proving I was strong," she continued, eyes glistening, "that I didn't need anyone. But when you stopped trying, it felt like someone pulled the floor out from under me." I leaned back. "You told me not to fix things." I listened. Her lips quivered. "I didn't mean it. I just wanted you to fight harder, to show me I still mattered." That line twisted something in my chest. Not sympathy, but realization. She didn't want a partner. She wanted reassurance, control, proof that she still had the power to make me chase her. "Laura," I said calmly, "I did fight. For years. But every time I reached out, you pushed further away. You don't get to rewrite that now." She exhaled shakily, eyes darting to the window. "So that's it? You're just done?" I was done the moment I realized peace felt better than proving my worth to someone determined not to see it. For a while, neither of us spoke. The hum of the cafe filled the space, spoons clinking, quiet chatter, a song playing faintly in the background, and she whispered, "I saw the papers. You really moved everything out of our joint accounts." "Yes, months ago." Wasn't bluffing when I said I'd stopped pretending. Her face fell. "You planned this? Prepared?" I corrected, because I knew one day you'd walk out, and I wanted to be ready when you did. Tears slipped down her cheeks. "You really stopped loving me, didn't you?" I hesitated, then shook my head slowly. "No, I just stopped trying to love someone who made it impossible." She covered her mouth, a quiet sob escaping. "I thought I had time," she whispered. "That's the thing about time," I said softly. "It runs out when you keep wasting it." When I left the cafe, I didn't look back. For the first time, she didn't follow me, or call, or send a dramatic message. Just silence. The kind that feels like the end of a long, painful chapter. Later that night, I found a message on my phone. From her, "You were right. I took you for granted. I thought I was hurting you, but I only broke myself." I didn't reply. Some truths don't need answers. It's strange how quiet life feels after the storm ends. For months, I woke up expecting chaos, an argument waiting in my inbox, a guilt trip disguised as closure, or some emotional boomerang from Laura. But instead, there was nothing. Just mornings filled with coffee and sunlight, evenings where I could breathe without tension clawing at my chest. Months after the papers were signed, life finally felt still again. No arguments, no tension, just quiet mornings and evenings that didn't feel like walking on glass. For the first time in years, I could breathe without bracing for the next emotional blow. I rebuilt slowly, cooking for myself, taking long walks, finding joy in small, ordinary things. It wasn't about moving on quickly, it was about remembering who I was before I spent years trying to prove my worth to someone who couldn't see it. One afternoon I ran into Laura's sister at the store. She looked surprised. "You look happier," she said softly. "I am," I replied. She hesitated, Laura struggling. I think she finally realized what she lost. I smiled faintly. "I hope she finds peace too." And I meant it. There was no anger left, only clarity. I had loved deeply, but love without respect is just pain with a pretty name. A few months later I met Mia, someone who made calm feel exciting again. She laughed easily, listened fully, and never once made me feel like I had to compete for space in my own life. One evening she said, "You have this peace about you, like you've been through fire but came out whole." I smiled. Maybe I finally learned to stop saving people who enjoy drowning. That night I deleted the last message Laura ever sent me. I broke myself. And for the first time, I didn't feel the need to respond. Freedom wasn't revenge or getting even. It was silence, self-respect, and knowing I'd never again confuse chaos for love. Sometimes peace isn't found in fixing someone else. It's in finally fixing yourself. If you've made it this far, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.